even as a very young person, just a kid growing up in New Zealand, the Lord seems to have always been calling me. I don't know what else to say about that. I seem to be, as I was growing up, a Christian magnet. The Christians always approached me, a lot of the time approached me. And the Lord's just been working my life, and I didn't come from a Christian family. I came from just an average family, I would say a heathen family, even though I grew up in a time when it was quite normal for children to go off to Sunday school. And I'm so thankful for that, because I learned about the Lord from a young age. And then I fell away from the Lord, but still the Lord had His seed developing in my life, and I got to be a teenager, and at 17 I had this great fear of death. And that really did start me on my true journey to follow Him on His path. And it's interesting, I remember I had become a Christian really when on a Friday night outreach, some people from the AOG church reached out to me. I went back to their coffee shop or cafe, and we had a great talk about the Lord and where I should be, where I needed to be, and I committed my life to the Lord. And I was a Christian for, I would say, 3 years. Then I fell away from the Lord. But the Lord has a funny way. He doesn't let His children go. He just loves them and He wants them back. Then maybe He just lets them out in the wild to know that that's the wrong place to be. He comes looking for us. He knows where we are. He knows where we are, and He brought me back. But in the meantime, there are a few things that happened between becoming or giving my life to the Lord and actually being His, being fully saved. And there was one time I really loved hang gliding, so I bought a hang glider. It was a Light 5 or Light 15 or something, I can't remember the exact name. And I had a few goes on a few hills, and then we went out to a little town called Raglan about 3 weeks later. And I got kind of freaked out when I took off from this 300-foot hill overlooking the beach, and was like straight down. And I ended up with my arms straight out in a stored position, and I was floating around up in the sky like a leaf. And the person who was with my friend came running up the hill after I'd crashed and broken the glider, and partly my pride. And she said, "I don't know how you survived." And so anyway, and I didn't go hang gliding after that for a while, though I would really like to. I was a bit scared of death, so I had that experience, and the Lord kept moving me along. I didn't get back to the Lord, but I kind of made a promise that I would follow Him, And I got some work as a handyman, had my own little business, and I was on this roof. And I'm really grateful to the roof tiler, who left the loose tile on the roof, because I stood on that and took up roof surfing. And I went down the roof pretty quickly, and I ended up in some really cool flowers called hydrangeas, these big bushy flowers, and ended up in hospital. Thought I had a broken neck because I was a bit scared about moving it at the time. I was thinking, no. And anyway, and then these people who called the ambulance were Christians. I didn't know that at the time. I got out of hospital, went back to thank them, and it was about Christmas time, so it was a Christmas party. And an evangelist named Paul, he just loved seeing people saved. He just wanted to he always talked to people about the Lord. He reached out to people, and he reached out to me, and he said, "Chris, at the end of a good long conversation of about an hour, he said, Chris, what you should do is, because he heard my story, of course, and he said, Chris, you just got to get up out of this chair and go and sit somewhere quietly by yourself and talk to the Lord and ask him to forgive you and be right with him. So I knew that it was the final time. This was the time that I had to make a commitment to the Lord. So I did that. I went down the hill. I sat in the gutter on the roadside and I asked the Lord to forgive me. And I committed my life to the Lord permanently. From that moment, I had a feeling of being enveloped in lightness, and not that I loved to sin, but I didn't care about it that much, and I was living a sinful life, of course, but it was like I couldn't sin. I felt protected, felt loved, I guess, and the devil just didn't get through to me. So I was in that state, and it was a wonderful state. And then not long after that, a few weeks later, I just began feeling like the Lord was just peeling away layers and letting life take, have a go at me, and for want of a better word. And he just began working in my life and kept on putting love in my life, pouring love into my life. And I just kept going, following the Lord and living for him. And life as a Christian is beautiful, because I've always felt not scared of death, but knowing that I'm right with the Lord and forgiven is how can I say it? To be right with the Lord is the best thing, and it doesn't matter what I've done. I fall. I have moments in my life where I slip up and I fall, but the Lord tells me to get up again, and I apologize to him, and then I just feel his love again, and I know that he's moving me on towards where he wants me to be. And so now I know that the path I'm on is his path, and I don't want to go away from that. And I know where I've come from. I know where my family is. I remember this time, I have to tell you this, way before I was a Christian, in my early days, say I was 10 or 9, this evangelist came to Hamilton, and there was a massive theatre there, not Sydney Opera House style, but it was a big memorial type theatre, and it was packed with people because it was a rally. It was he was having a massive outreach, and he called for, it was an altar call, that's right, at the end of his preaching, and it was amazing. I don't remember much of the preaching, I don't remember the music, but I remember this time that I had to go up the front. I hadn't done that before. And I said to my family, I said, come on, let's go down there, because my mum and dad were there, my brother and sisters were there, but I was the only one that went. And my mum and dad to this day aren't Christians. They had the Lord called them, but they didn't answer him. I don't know how it works with the Lord, but I know he doesn't always tarry with people. The Lord calls you, he calls me. We need to answer him, and we need to give our lives to the Lord. So they aren't Christians now. My sisters aren't Christians. My brother, he's a Christian. He loves the Lord. And so anyway, And now I believe from that time, answering Him was the time I decided to follow the Lord. And I'm still following the Lord, even though there's been a lot of rocky parts to my life, and the journey hasn't been easy, but like He promises, it's not going to be an easy journey, but He will get us to the destination safely. And I trust Him to do that. As far as now, this stage of my life, and I have for a long time, but I love talking to people, and I love making someone a coffee when they come over. Even they might get pikelets. They might even get lunch, and we love to do that. I also love it when I can encourage someone in their Christian life, or if they're going through a hard time, to be able to reach out to them and offer some comfort and hope. And also, if I can share what the Lord's done for me, then I like to pass that on to people as well. We like to go to our church because of the faithful preaching, the no compromise preaching, no beating about the bush, just telling us where we should be with the Lord and how He's working in people's lives, historically, in a contemporary setting, just in our lives. Also, we see the love of our brothers and sisters reaching out to not just each other, but the community as well, and always willing to lend a hand in whatever way and with whatever gifts they have. Of course, COVID-19's put a bit of a damper on that one, but we're all getting through that, and we're thankful for our brothers and sisters at this church. Amen, brother.